I moved into the little house on Sycamore Lane in the dead heat of July, alone, jobless, and in that weird in-between space where everything feels temporary, including you. The yard was dry and forgettable. But the house next door was not. Her garden spilled out like something from a dream, peach trees bent low with ripe fruit, vines wrapped lazily around fences, the scent of something impossibly sweet in the air. Even the sunlight felt warmer near her place, like it stuck to her walls a little longer than it should have. I first saw her through the blinds. She was barefoot, watering plants in a silk robe that barely touched her knees. Her hair was pinned up carelessly, like she'd done it half asleep, and her skin glowed in the light. She bent to fix a hose, and the robe pulled taut across her lower back. She looked up. Saw me. And smiled, slow, like someone pressing a secret against glass. Later that day, as I fumbled with a stuck window frame, I heard her voice drift across the fence. "You're new," she said. She stood leaning casually on the wooden divider, holding a bowl full of peaches like a peace offering. Her sunglasses caught the last of the sun, and one hip pressed out in a way that felt intentional. "I thought I'd welcome you," she said. "Try one. They're still warm." I walked over, heartbeat too fast for the weather. The scent hit first, ripe fruit and something softer. Floral. Dangerous. I took a peach. Our fingers brushed. She didn't flinch. "They're soft," she said. "But you've got to know when to bite. Too early, they fight you. Too late." She trailed off and licked a drop of juice from her lip. I bit in. Juice ran down my chin. She didn't look away. Didn't smile either. She watched like she was reading something I didn't know I was showing. "Claire," she said. "If you need anything, tools, sugar, company, I'm next door." "Jake," I said, still chewing, feeling 15 and flustered. "I know," she said, almost amused. "Your name's on the mailbox. I notice things." Then she turned and walked away, hips moving like a slow thought you can't quite shake. That night, I sat by the window longer than I meant to. Her porch light stayed on. Her door, too, half cracked. Once, I thought I saw her silhouette pass in front of the frame, arm bare, moving like music. And in the morning, there was a single peach on my doorstep. No note. Just one soft, perfect peach, warm from the sun. I bit into it. It tasted like a beginning. The next morning was already boiling by 10. I was shirtless, trying to untangle a garden hose that had folded itself into knots, when I heard her voice again, smooth as syrup, floating over the fence. "You free today, Jake?" She didn't wait for an answer. "One of my branches is cracked. Could use a man's hands on it." She stood barefoot on the stone path between her peach trees, the robe back, same silk, same looseness, but this time it wasn't tied quite so tight. The opening at her chest fluttered with every slow movement. "I'll grab the ladder," I said. "No," she said quickly. "I want you on the ladder." "I'll hold it." She tilted her head. "I like the view from below." I tried to laugh. It came out dry. The ladder was wobbly, old, and as unpredictable as the woman holding it. As I climbed, I could feel her eyes running up my legs, over the sweat down my spine. "Careful," she said. "Wouldn't want you falling, unless you land on top of me." I choked on a breath but didn't look down. I didn't need to, her voice was already too close. The peach I reached for came off easily. The skin was thin and warm, like it had been waiting for someone. When I handed it down, her fingers met mine. She held on a second too long. "They're better when they're still warm," she murmured. I stayed on the ladder, heart thudding like it had something to prove. When I finally climbed down, sticky with juice and sun, she handed me a towel, soft and smelling like her perfume, flowers, spice, and something like bare skin after sleep. You've got juice here, she said, pointing to the curve of my jaw. Her fingers brushed it away. The touch was light, but it burned. She didn't take her eyes off mine. She stepped back only when the silence between us got too loud to ignore. Want a drink? She asked. Lemonade. Cold. Unless you'd rather, something stronger. The robe slipped slightly off one shoulder. I followed her into the kitchen. It was darker inside, cooler, too, but somehow thicker. Like the air held its breath. She opened the fridge, bent slightly, robe clinging to her. No effort to fix it. Sit, she said. I did. On a stool near the counter, hands pressed to my knees, unsure if I was still the one in control. She handed me a glass, then leaned back on the edge of the sink. Watching. You're quiet again, she said. But you think a lot, don't you? I nodded. That's dangerous, in the wrong company. We talked about nothing for a while. The peaches. The heat. My car. But every word felt like it was brushing up against something else. Something waiting in the silence. At one point she reached past me for a napkin, her thigh grazing mine, her breath near my ear. She didn't move quickly. She never did. Her voice dropped low. You're not in a rush, are you? I shook my head. She smiled. Good. Some things are better when you take your time. It started with thunder. Not the loud kind. The slow, rolling kind, like someone dragging furniture across the sky. I was back at home, staring at my laptop, pretending to job hunt. But nothing on the screen looked remotely as interesting as the thought of her across the fence. At 4:13 p.m., I got a message. Slid under the door. A note. Small. Folded. Peach-colored paper. Storm's coming. You should wait it out on my porch. I have wine. And no expectations. Underneath, in small script. Unless you bring them with you. She sat on a cushioned wicker chair beneath a wide awning, barefoot, legs crossed, hair down for once. There was a bottle of wine between us. No glasses yet. Her robe was gone. She wore something even simpler, a long tank top, no bra, and shorts that might have been underwear in a past life. She poured without asking. I sipped slowly, letting the silence build. It was that kind of silence again, the charged kind. The kind that meant something was going to happen, even if no one would say it first. The storm cracked open just as she leaned her head back against the chair, exposing her throat, the line of her collarbone. Rain tapped the roof gently at first, then harder, like it wanted in. I love this, she said softly. The sound. The smell. It makes you feel like the whole world's listening. I nodded. Watched the way her fingers circled the rim of her glass, slow and absent. You always watch me like that, she added. You know that, right? I don't mean to. She smiled, just barely. That's what makes it better. A gust of wind kicked through the porch. Her shirt clung closer, and a drop of rain hit the floor beside my bare foot. She turned her face toward me, not quite smiling, not quite anything. You still tasting the peach? She asked. I blinked. What? You bit into something. You haven't let it go since. A pause. Don't worry. I haven't either. We both went quiet again. Except the storm outside was growing louder. And so was whatever was building between us. Do you always do this? I asked finally. Leave peaches on doorsteps? Invite strange men over during thunderstorms? She laughed. Only when they stare at me through blinds for 3 straight mornings. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but she held up a hand. It's okay, she said. I liked it. The lightning cracked closer now. She leaned toward me, elbows on her knees. "I'm not offering you anything," she said carefully. "No promises. No future. Just this moment. If you want it." I stared at her. Her lips. Her fingers. The small bead of condensation sliding down her wineglass, trailing slowly over the back of her hand. "I do." She didn't smile. She stood. And stepped between my knees. Then, for the first time, she touched me not by accident. Not at all. The rain hammered harder now, drumming against the porch roof with an urgency that echoed the quickening rhythm of my heartbeat. Inside, the air was thick with unspoken things, heavy with a tension that neither of us dared to name aloud. She sat back, the chair creaking softly beneath her, and for a long moment, all I could do was watch, the way the water traced rivulets down her bare arms, how her eyes flickered with a storm of their own, fierce and restless. "You ever notice," she said quietly, "that storms outside always feel safer than the ones inside us?" Her words hung between us, fragile and urgent. I leaned forward, catching the faintest tremble in her voice, the kind that betrays a heart skittering just beneath the surface. "What kind of storms?" I asked, voice barely more than a breath. She hesitated, fingers absently tracing circles on the armrest, as if trying to ground herself. "The ones we don't talk about. The ones we carry when no one's watching." She met my gaze then, steady and raw. "Like regrets, or secrets, or the kind of loneliness that doesn't go away just because you're not alone." I swallowed, feeling the weight of that loneliness in my own chest, years of it, packed tightly into the spaces I tried to ignore. She reached into the side table and pulled out a small wooden box, worn smooth from years of handling. The kind of thing that holds things better left hidden. Opening it slowly, she revealed a handful of photographs, faded, curling at the edges, and a pair of small keys, their metal dulled but still heavy with purpose. "These are pieces of my past," she said, voice softening. "Some of them I'm still trying to understand. Others I've tried to forget." Her eyes didn't leave mine as she slid the keys across the table. "Tomorrow, I want to show you something. Something I've kept locked away." I hesitated, fingers brushing hers as I reached for the keys. The touch was electric, a jolt cutting through the rain-soaked stillness. "What's behind the door?" I asked. She smiled then, a slow, knowing curve of her lips that sent warmth spilling through me. "Truths. Maybe pain. Maybe a chance." Her gaze drifted to the storm outside, lightning flashing like a promise. "But for now," she said, standing with the grace of a woman who's danced with storms before, "we have this moment. And whatever comes next." She stepped closer, the heat from her body a contrast to the cool, damp air. My breath hitched as her fingers found mine again, intertwining with a gentle insistence. Lightning cracked, illuminating her face, a portrait of vulnerability and daring all at once. And in that charged silence, I knew the real storm was just beginning. The night stretched on, the storm a relentless symphony around us. We talked then, soft words that felt like confessions, stories spilled carefully, laughter tangled with sighs, and the occasional pause when the world outside seemed to seep back in. At some point, the wine was forgotten, replaced by something sharper, something raw. When I finally left her porch, soaked through and breathless, the air smelled like earth and promises. Tomorrow, I thought, would change everything. The morning arrived heavy and slow, wrapped in a thick gray fog that clung to the trees like a secret. I woke to the steady patter of drizzle on my window, the storm's aftermath lingering in every breath of damp air. My mind was still tangled in the memories of last night, her touch, the storm, the quiet promise hanging between us like a thread pulled taut. I dressed quickly, the keys heavy in my pocket, a strange weight I couldn't ignore. Every step toward her house felt like crossing a line, one I didn't know if I wanted to find or lose myself beyond. The porch was empty when I arrived, slick with rain but warm under the soft glow of a single lantern. She met me at the door, hair still damp from the night, eyes sharp and curious. "No storm today," she said, voice teasing but with a seriousness beneath. "Perfect weather for opening locked doors." She led me inside, the house feeling different in the daylight, less mysterious, more vulnerable. The shadows from last night had faded, but the tension between us hadn't. It simmered just beneath the surface, waiting to boil over. She guided me to a small room at the back, the one with the old wooden door the keys fit. The lock clicked open with a satisfying ease, and the door swung wide to reveal a space that took my breath away. Walls lined with photographs, letters, and artifacts, moments frozen in time, fragments of her life I hadn't seen before. Some pictures showed a younger version of her, smiling but with eyes that held pain. Others were faded snapshots of places far away, faces I couldn't place. "This is my history," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "The parts one never shared. The storms I survived alone." I stepped inside, the scent of old paper and dust filling my lungs. I traced a finger over one photograph, a woman laughing under the sun, carefree, but the edges of the photo were frayed like the memory it held was worn. "Why show me this?" I asked, my voice breaking the quiet. "Because," she said, "I want you to know that this, what we have, isn't just a moment stolen from time. It's something real, even if it's fragile. Even if it's scary." Her hand found mine again, steady and grounding. The warmth of her touch was a tether pulling me away from the doubts that had gnawed at me for years. We stayed there for what felt like hours, sharing stories behind each picture, each token. Her past unfolded like a storybook, and I was both reader and participant, swept into a world I never expected to enter. Later, as the afternoon sun began to break through the clouds, she pulled me close. The storm outside had passed, but the storm inside me raged fiercer than ever. Her lips brushed mine, soft and sure, and I surrendered to the pull, knowing that whatever came next, I wasn't going back. That night, the air was thick with the scent of wet earth and something unspoken, lingering between us like a secret waiting to be unveiled. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of distant thunder, as if the storm was pacing outside, unwilling to leave just yet. She lit a single candle on the wooden table between us. The flickering flame cast shadows that danced on her face, highlighting the curve of her cheekbones and the softness of her lips. She sat close, closer than before, the warmth of her body pressing into mine without a word. For a moment, we simply existed, two souls tethered by invisible threads, caught between hesitation and desire. Her eyes searched mine, vulnerability and courage swirling together in their depths. "I never thought I'd let anyone see this side of me," she said softly, voice trembling. "But with you, it feels like maybe I can." I reached out, brushing a stray wet strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to hide anymore." Her breath hitched, and then she closed the distance, her lips barely grazing mine, light, tentative, like the first drop of rain before the deluge. The moment shattered and rebuilt itself again, stronger, fiercer. Her hand slid over my chest, tracing a path down, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. I tasted the storm on her skin, wild, electric, intoxicating. She whispered my name, a prayer and a command all at once, and I gave in. Time blurred into a slow, endless rhythm, breaths mingling, fingers exploring, hearts pounding. Every touch was a conversation, every sigh a secret shared. We moved together in the quiet dark, the world outside forgotten, replaced by the heat between us. The storm raged on, but inside, there was only this, two people who had found each other amid the chaos. When it was over, she rested her head against my shoulder, the steady beat of her heart a lullaby. "I don't know where this goes," she murmured. "But for now, this is enough." I held her close, the taste of peach still sweet on my tongue, and knew that some storms don't need to end to be beautiful. They just need to be lived.